This is a 10.5 meters long wall. 10.5 meters. And this is the front of a fountain, which is a very, very special thing. We don't have such a thing in such a good state of preservation, standing in Israel as a whole and in Jerusalem in particular. Now, the decoration of the wall is exactly as the side walls, with one difference. Here, also, you can see the lowest third part, the cornice, and then the pilasters that are climbing from it. Here you see the capitals. They are still preserved. In the center of each capital, there is a hole. In this hole, there is a lead pipe that is inserted, where the water would come out. We have water jugs of the Hellenistic period decorated with drawings showing fountains in spring houses where there are line heads and all kinds of things inserted in the walls, and the water are coming from the mouth of the line. In Jerusalem, they couldn't have put heads of lions or heads of animals as the mouth of the fountain. So they put Corinthian capitals. But in the center of the Corinthian capitals, they inserted these lead pipes where the water flowed from. So you just imagine the magnificence of the thing. We think that because this fountain is located inside a building that was enclosed with doors, with wall in the south. This is not the original wall. The original wall was a little bit further to the south, possibly wall with windows where the landscape could have been seen through. But it's enclosed within a building. It's not a public fountain. This is a fountain that was within a very magnificent building, so possibly they could control the flow of water. When there were guests and they wanted to impress them, they opened and the water would have flowed. When there was no guest, they closed.
What was the source of the water?
1 million question. $1 million question. There must have been some sort of an aqueduct that would bring fresh water from top and bring it down. The source of water we don't know, but what we do know is that behind this very impressive facade of the fountain, there is more than 1 meter wide wall with a canal, water canal that is in between. Inside the wall, there is a water canal. The source of water would have to fill this canal that is just behind this wall. The water would have go up until it reached the level of the Corinthian capitals, and then it would flow down. When they wanted to close the fountain, that water would not flow they still had to take the water somewhere, and this is why they built a water reservoir just behind the fountain. And all the water would be gathered there in the water tank, water reservoir just behind the fountain. Maybe they had also a way of circulation to take the water from the tank afterwards and put it once again. So we don't know because we see it only partly. But what we see now is that there is a set of lead pipes set in the center of the Corinthian capitals. Everything is connected with an inside canal that is enclosed from the east and from the west. And once it is filled, the water goes up and up to the level of the fountain and the water are coming down. Here they must have been collected somehow and drained somehow. We speculated, we suggested all kinds of suggestions because in the very beginning we didn't find remains of a pool, reservoir to gather the water, so we thought maybe there were big jars standing just under each one of them, and when they overflowed, there is a small canal in the floor to gather the water into a drainage channel. Now, when I dismantled, in the last excavations, when we dismantled the walls where you stand was a wall separating these parts, I did find remains of a small pool, like water reservoir or water pool that is sunk in the floor. So there might have been some place where all the water were collected.
And the people would walk through here?
So the people, yes. So the connection between the two triclinia was actually through a corridor, sort of a corridor. If you look once again to the east, you see this double entrance. We suggested a possibility, because of the symmetric relations between this hall and another hall that was on the west, that maybe possibly there was another double entrance, the same as this one, also in the west. And people could have go, when the fountain was not working, they would just, it's like a promenade. Just imagine a wall with windows, allowing them to view the landscape, meeting place of two rivers that are flowing here, the Tiropeon coming from the north and the transversal valley coming from the west, tributary, meeting and going all the way south to the Kidron and to the Silwan pool. Wonderful landscape. Maybe gardens in this area, a lot of water, a lot of vegetation, and this building that is standing high above its surroundings, but along a main road that goes from the west to the Temple Mount. The landscape is magnificent. So they could have walked here in this corridor all the way to the west, or they could stay and have something to drink, something to eat, have some good time with the city councillors and representatives and of the city just before going up to the Temple Mount. The location of the building, its close proximity to the Temple Mount suggests people could gather here, important visitors and the city councillors themselves. We have a building that is called Prytaneon in the Roman city, in the Greek, Hellenistic and Roman cities. Prytaneon is a place that was used by the city councillors. They could rest there, they could gather there, they could hold banquets, meals, and they could bring guests that were allowed by the city hall members to be invited to the Prytaneon. So maybe this building is something like that.
Is there any written evidence from Josephus or Talmudic sources?
No, this building is not reminded by Josephus, but also archaeologically speaking, we saw that it did not exist until 70 CE, until the destruction of Jerusalem. Prior to 70 CE, it was already changed. It was already divided into three separated parts by separation walls. One was built here, another one was built there, and the roofs are now three separated vaults. This wall is much later, is post-70, I would say, possibly Roman, but later than the destruction of Jerusalem, belongs to a Roman building that was built to the south. So it cuts the Herodian building. But prior to the destruction of the city, the structure was already changed, divided into three halls, covered with separated vaults, and the reason for these changes, and also water installations were inserted into these three separate halls, like a very big ritual bath in the western one, a huge ritual bath of the Second Temple period, still. The reason for the change might be related to the extension of the Temple Mount, change of orientation of buildings in this area. Before the extension of the Temple Mount, everything was adjusted to the topography, and the orientation of the whole building here runs from southwest to northeast, while the Temple Mount runs north-south, and everything that was related to it later on as the Wilson Arch and the whole staircase and bridges and things that connected to the Temple Mount through the Wilson Arch, everything changed orientation and was like this wall, east-west or north-south, but not perpendicular, not south-west, northeast. So this change of orientation indicates also change in the use of the buildings, and our monumental building of the early decades of the first century, very soon after, was changed into something else. The fountain stopped functioning, the building was divided.
Herodian?
No, this is Herodian.
No, the Trachineo.
The Trachineo is Herodian. It is dated, we thought, when excavation started here, we thought it was from the time of King Herod. Today, after I was able to lift a few of the original pavement flagstones and dig below that, and I have coins from below that, and I have pottery sherds, and I have carbon 14 dates from the foundation of the floor, I know that the building was built in the 20th, 30th of the 1st century. It's not King Herod.
Shlomit?
No, King Herod died at 4 BC, and this is 20 years after he died.
But you said that the buildings above were part of the Herodian project which changed the alliance.
Shlomit, I just need to stop you.